The Chevy Silverado may seem like a pickup truck that rather relies on proven technology for the sake of reliability, but the recent recalls taught us that even with such a conservative design approach, it's hard to avoid expensive repairs. Moreover, this full-size pickup truck has been plagued with recalls lately, so it's pretty legal to say that the Chevy Silverado has a huge problem with its quality control. Let's take a closer look. 6.2-liter V8 engine failure. The most recent and most alarming recall affects 2021 to 2024 Silverados equipped with the powerful 6.2-liter V8 engine. What's supposed to be the crown jewel of GM's engine lineup has turned into a major liability for thousands of owners. The recall, announced in April this year, stemmed from manufacturing defects in the connecting rod and crankshaft components, quite literally the heart of the engine. So, what's the deal here? Let's say you're cruising down the highway, possibly towing a trailer, when suddenly your engine completely fails without any warning. That's exactly the scenario GM was trying to prevent with this massive recall that affected more than 107,000 Silverado 1500 trucks in the United States alone. Globally, this recall impacted approximately 721,000 vehicles across GM's lineup. The worst part? Reports suggest that GM had previously closed 3 investigations into this exact issue before the number of engine failures became too significant to ignore. This raises serious questions about how seriously GM takes quality control and customer safety. The fix isn't simple either. If your truck is affected, dealers must conduct a thorough inspection of the engine. Trucks that pass inspection get an oil filter replacement and switch to a higher viscosity 0W40 oil. But those that fail? GM will either repair or completely replace the engine, a process that could leave owners without their trucks for weeks. For a vehicle marketed as dependable, this certainly doesn't inspire confidence. Diesel models and locked rear wheels. If you opted for the diesel engine in your 2020 to 2022 Silverado thinking it would be much cheaper to run, you might want to think again. In October last year, GM issued a recall affecting approximately 462,000 diesel-powered trucks and SUVs across their lineup. The issue? A faulty transmission control valve that could lead to the rear wheels unexpectedly locking up while driving. In practice, this means that there is a possibility to, out of nowhere, instantly lose control of your vehicle in a potentially deadly situation. Some drivers reported experiencing harsh or erratic shifting before the more serious problem developed, but that's small comfort considering the extreme danger this defect poses. GM's solution was to install updated transmission control module software that can detect excessive valve wear about 10,000 miles before the rear wheels are at risk of locking up. If the software detects a problem, it temporarily limits the transmission to 5th gear as a safety measure. Not ideal, but certainly better than a crash. For a brand that prides itself on toughness and reliability, these transmission issues in their diesel lineup deliver a serious blow to Chevrolet's reputation, especially considering that many buyers choose diesel engines specifically for their supposed efficiency, durability, and long-term reliability. Brake fluid warning. Modern vehicles rely heavily on software for critical safety systems, and the Silverado 1500 proves what can go wrong when that software fails. GM issued a recall in September last year for a software flaw in the electronic brake control module that prevented the low brake fluid warning light from illuminating. This might not sound serious until you consider the implications. Drivers could unknowingly operate their trucks with dangerously low brake fluid, significantly reducing braking performance and dramatically increasing the risk of a crash. This recall affected part of 449,671 vehicles across GM's lineup and represented a violation of Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard number 135. The fix was straightforward, a software update that could even be performed over the air for many vehicles. But the real concern here is how such a fundamental safety feature made it through GM's quality control process with this critical flaw. It highlights the increasing vulnerability of modern vehicles to software errors that can have life-threatening consequences. Trailer hitch detachment. For a truck that markets itself heavily on towing capabilities, this next recall is particularly embarrassing. In August last year, GM recalled 38 of its 2024 Silverado trucks because the rear bumper mounting bracket might not provide sufficient structural support for towing. The potential consequence? A trailer could completely detach from the truck while driving, creating a massive hazard not just for the Silverado driver, but for everyone else on the road. While this recall affected relatively few vehicles, it's a stark reminder of how even small oversights in the manufacturing process can have deadly consequences. The fix required both the rear bumper mounting bracket and the hitch assembly to be completely replaced, not a minor repair. For a truck lineup that runs TV commercials boasting about towing capacity and capability, having a fundamental flaw in the actual towing hardware represents a serious failure in both design and quality control. Airbag deployment issues. Back in July 2021, GM issued a recall for certain 2021 Silverado 1500 trucks because the driver's side airbag module might be missing metal tabs designed to secure the plastic airbag cover to the main housing. This manufacturing defect could impede the proper deployment of the airbag during a crash, increasing the risk of serious injury or death to the driver. The only solution was a complete replacement of the airbag module if inspection revealed missing tabs. Airbags are one of the most critical safety systems in modern vehicles, and a failure to deploy correctly could mean the difference between walking away from an accident and being carried away in an ambulance. This recall highlights potential quality control issues in GM's supply chain and assembly processes. Essentially, the company allowed vehicles to leave the factory with improperly manufactured airbag components, which represents a serious lapse in oversight. Seatbelt attachment problems. One of the largest recalls affecting the Silverado came a few years ago when GM issued a recall for front row center seatbelt brackets that might not have been properly secured to the seat frame. This recall affected an astounding 477,667 Silverado 1500 trucks from 2019 to 2021 model years, along with other Chevrolet models for a total of 624,216 vehicles. The potential danger is obvious. A seatbelt that isn't properly attached to the vehicle structure cannot effectively restrain an occupant during a crash or sudden braking event. Seatbelts are the most basic and critical safety feature in any vehicle, and a failure here is unacceptable. Dealerships had to inspect and potentially reassemble the seatbelt brackets correctly, a fix that shouldn't have been necessary if proper quality control had been in place during assembly. The sheer number of vehicles affected by this recall suggests a systemic issue in GM's manufacturing processes rather than an isolated incident. Tire overcure issues. Two separate recalls issued involved Continental tires installed as original equipment on 2021 Silverado 1500 trucks. These tires may have been overcured during production, which could lead to a sidewall break, sudden loss of air pressure, or belt separation, any of which could cause a driver to lose control of their vehicle. The first recall affected 33,838 vehicles across various GM models, while the second involved 896 Silverado and Sierra 1500 trucks. Additionally, a separate recall affected 552 Silverado 1500 vehicles due to incompatibility between the original 17-inch spare tire and certain accessory road wheels. Tires are literally where the rubber meets the road, the only point of contact between your vehicle and the pavement. A failure here at highway speeds can be catastrophic, making these recalls particularly concerning for owners who expect their truck to perform reliably in all conditions. When you spend more than $50,000 on a new truck, the last thing you expect is to be bombarded with recall notices for critical safety issues. The sheer number and severity of recalls affecting the Chevrolet Silverado in recent years should give pause to anyone considering this truck for their next purchase. From engine failures to transmission problems, brake system errors, airbag deficiencies, trailer hitch inadequacies, and seatbelt attachment issues, the Silverado has experienced problems with virtually every major system that keeps drivers safe on the road. What these recalls truly highlight is a potential systemic issue with quality control at General Motors, both in their own manufacturing facilities and throughout their supply chain. While all automakers issue recalls occasionally, the frequency and severity of those affecting the Silverado suggest deeper problems that may not be easily resolved. If you own a Silverado, make sure to check if your vehicle is affected by these recalls by visiting the NHTSA website or using the Safer Car app. Don't wait for a letter from GM. Your safety could depend on addressing these issues promptly, and if you're in the market for a new truck, consider these reliability concerns alongside the Silverado's other features before making your decision. But the Silverado is far from being the only pickup truck with questionable value these days. Check out this video about the reasons why it's best not to buy the 2026 Nissan Frontier you can now see on the screen. The Japanese pickup may seem appealing with its old-school approach, but behind that rugged exterior lies a solid portion of drawbacks that are hard to neglect. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.